Trust really, it's worth recognizing what trust is. Trust is the belief that someone is going to do what you expect of them. The key ingredients to foster trust within the business context is about being transparent and driving a clear perception of reliable delivery.
For product leaders listening today who want to start making a difference right away, what's one habit or mindset shift that they can implement immediately?
You may have heard the phrase, can't eat an elephant in one sitting. So perhaps the most important thing is to have the habit of picking small things regularly and repeating regularly.
Welcome to the Productized podcast, where we dive deep into the minds of top innovators in product management and design. And at Productized, we're all about exploring new ideas. And today, we're thrilled to have Dave Martin as our guest. Dave is a product leadership coach with decades of experience helping B2B tech companies reduce waste in product development, drive customer value, and lead teams with pride. His new initiative, Outcome Habits, and his book, The Product Momentum Gap, are changing the way leaders think about product development. David, welcome to the Productized podcast.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So before we dive in, we usually have this rather silly game where I have a couple of questions. What's your favorite app right now in your phone?
Oh, wow. Favorite app? Probably Perplexity AI's own native app. Perplexity AI is probably my favorite generic LLM right now. I specifically like the way it links the sources, how easy it is to go from a AI-based question and then be watching a video to do a deep dive into the topic. But my essential apps, the ones I use every day, no matter what, will be Notability and Audible. I'm dyslexic, so I listen to books more than I read them. Which is one of the reasons my book is on Audible. I will use Audible and Notability, a note-taking app on the iPad every day.
All right. So note-taking, LLMs, and audiobooks. That's a very interesting combination here. And what's your favorite summer activity as we're approaching the end of summer quickly?
Sure, yeah. I think my favorite summer activity is probably the same activity I do all year round, and that's mountain biking. I'm not a fair-weathered mountain biker, but I definitely prefer it in the dry than I do the mud and wet and slop of the United Kingdom in the summer, in the winter. So mountain biking in the Alps, where there's dust in the summer, that's got to be my favorite.
In the Alps, do you get to mountain bike near Bristol, where you based?
Yeah, some amazing places where I'm based in Bristol, and the Forest of Dean nearby. 2 or 3 professional top riders, both women and men, in the World Cup series. I've learned and trained in this area and come from around here. So it's definitely something in the water.
All right. And are you e-biking or mostly non-electrical bikes?
Both. I mean, the e-bikes are great. They're amazing fun.
Fun.
Depends what are you doing and where you are. So I have far too many bikes and definitely an e-bike as well.
All right. So getting back to the product management, then for sure there's something to learn from mountain biking. That's the meme for LinkedIn nowadays for everything, right? But you've had a remarkable journey in product leadership, from working with tech giants like Adobe, Google, to helping startups grow. Can you tell us what sparked your passion for, transforming product leadership?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, my mission personally, and as it happens from my training and coaching practice right to left, is to help product teams build successful products, importantly, without high stress, in a way that means people enjoy their job and enjoy their work, and that's highly effective for the customer and for the business. The aim is to reduce stress, increase morale, boost effectiveness. Why is that the mission? Well, that's come about from witnessing the emotional pains, the pressured decision-making, the short-term, disastrous tactical decisions, the enormous wasted effort, and which is unfortunately really commonplace in product development across many organizations. I mean, the volume of features that are never or rarely used is ridiculously huge. Pendo estimated at 80%. the volume of product managers who've experienced burnout or engineers that have experienced burnout is staggeringly high. With individuals becoming, disengaged and in some cases, very ill. Staff turnover speaks for that as well and shows, because there's really high staff turnover in product management compared to other functions. So I think if you look at all of that, illustrates there's a problem. After spending 20 years in product leadership in many different companies, normally in roles where it was transformational and we were going through big change, hearing and seeing people go through that pain and hearing the phrases, if I stay in product, becoming really popular and more recently, I'm forever more and more certain that we've got to solve that problem and make product management good for the business and good for the employee. I think that comes from, the solution isn't product craft. I think lots of the industry has great product craft, and I see people with amazing experience and knowledge and capabilities and skills, but they aren't always in an environment where they're set up for success. And that product craft versus typical business pressure frequently results in a negative outcome. So the hypothesis at the heart of what I do, personally, on why I get out of bed and why I run right to left. My hypothesis is that when product leadership, which doesn't always have to come from the person with the fancy job title, but when product leadership is improved, the pains will be reduced, probably not eliminated. It's not a silver bullet, but heavily reduced, and the performance of the organization will be improved. My own 20 years plus experience, which somebody got me to work out recently and helped me realize just how much that was. I was going through a little bit of imposter syndrome myself, and they pointed out that's 41,000 hours of hands-on experience in product leadership, was kind of scary and made me feel very old. But that gives me confidence that that hypothesis is true. And, over the last 5 years running right to left and over 6,000 hours of coaching product leaders, I'm really confident that if we get more outcome-focused product leaders with more proficiency in leadership, we will reduce the stresses and pressures, we will motivate teams, and we'll deliver business results. That will directly impact the lives of product managers and engineers and designers. So it feels worthwhile.
That's a great segue to the question, which is this why you have founded Right to Left? And where does the curious name come from?
Yeah, sure. No problem. Right to Left, it's definitely why I founded Right to Left. And Right to Left focuses on this sort of outcome first product mindset and outcome first leadership mindset. And really it's three things smashed together because, I didn't invent it. I've just witnessed it and enjoyed being able to try and master it as best as I can. It comes from servient leadership, where leaders have a desired outcome and focus on how best to serve their teams to help them achieve that outcome. It comes from all the great product-led stuff from all the experts in that space, such as Marty Kagan and all the others, and Dan Olson and all the great people in that space who have talked about product-led for a long time, which is always about that mantra of outcomes over outputs. And then the sort of origin story for all of this is probably, if we're honest and really think about it, it probably comes from Japan, from the manufacturing and from the Toyota production system. And if you study that and have a good look and get under the covers of that, there's a common phrase called right to left, where a good part of lean manufacturing starts with the desired outcome and then works backwards to find the solution. And that's where the company name Right to Left comes from.
Okay. Working towards find a solution. That's very keen to the 5 whys and lots of those Japanese techniques that were first born out of the factory floor. So many leaders focus on outputs rather than outcomes. That story has been told countless times. It's a little bit of the drama we are all facing. Product at times, but what are some of the common pitfalls you've observed in this approach? And how can leaders make the shift to prioritize outcomes instead of outputs?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the pitfalls have probably been discussed at length by lots of people with many examples, not just in software either.
Absolutely.
I can immediately think of high-profile examples of multi-million-pound disasters from juicing companies or personal transport companies. So, I think it's important to recognize this isn't something special to software. This is the same to any product development. And the repeated mistake, I think, is really where leadership start to accidentally take big bets on the solution. A problem, probably not written down, is observed, and an idea to solve it, is sparked. And, by focusing on that solution, it's like going all in on one number when playing a roulette wheel. And it's a pretty binary win or loss, and the odds are stacked against the win. The odds are really unlikely to win, but it didn't feel like that at the time for the people involved. They've seen a problem and they have an idea of a solution. What can go wrong? And I think often the challenge is actually because of the history for the people involved. Quite often I see founders make this mistake, especially on their second product. When a business has got to Series A and they're growing and they're trying to add that second product to their organization for growth.
Why is that? Because they feel confident that...
No, I don't think it's confidence. I think it's about copying what they think they did before. So first time round, the founder sees a problem, thinks of a solution, chases it down and gets, the stars are aligned and it all seems to work. And it feels like, well, I had the idea before. I can come up with great ideas and solve problems. I can see the solution. We've just got to build it and make it work. But what they forget was that first idea, when previously, was actually based on a heap of knowledge quite often about the pain of the problem. They understood the problem really well, that first problem. In many cases, they personally suffered the pain before becoming the founder. And that process of understanding the problem in depth before placing the bet on the solution, that gets missed because they happened organically. They didn't do it on purpose. They already had done that. It happened organically. When they do it the second time round, it's hard to realize that step took place the first time and they must do it the second time as well. Hence, things can go wrong. So I think it's about really helping people understand that we've got to stop placing the big bets without risk management, and product craft is the risk management. That product management is the risk management, so that we identify and validate the solution, the problems that matter, we understand their root causes, and we work with engineers and designers to find solutions that will actually solve those root causes, and we work with product marketing to position it correctly to the market to maximize revenue.
Yeah, I see lots of people, coming back to what you just said, it's not just software. We're posting this example of the SpaceX evolution of the rocket engine, right? And the Raptor 1, Raptor 2, Raptor 3, and how it got simpler and simpler and simpler. Now it's much more streamlined. I'm a quarter of moving pieces than the first edition, and it has much better thrust, much better engine, and with much less complexity, which is something surprising and not often seen, and definitely not in the software world, where complexity seems to be almost a badge of honor and not the opposite, right? It's more lines of code, more complexity seems almost like a marketing trait of product.
If you think about that point, simplicity, going back a little bit, some of the listeners might not be old enough to remember this, but I remember a product called Microsoft Project, a project management tool, very complicated, could do anything a project manager could dream of. And the product that replaced it significantly in the market and took huge market share was Basecamp from 37 Signals. And Basecamp did hardly any of those features, just like Google Docs perhaps and MS Word.
No Gantt charts.
Yeah, exactly. In Google Docs is the same with MS Word. Half the features are missing. I think that simplification does happen in our software worlds. I think just not enough companies work out what to kill.
So let's maybe jump into building trust and leading product-led transformations at the upcoming Productized conference we're organizing in October. You're facilitating a workshop which is titled Get Buy-in to be Product-Led. Can you give us a preview of what attendees can expect from this workshop?
Yeah, sure. But I'm going to give it all away because that's why they've got to come to the workshop.
Well, just a sneak peek.
Yeah, preview, a teaser. I mean, we're going to cover, we're going to cover a huge part of what leadership's about: communication and influence, bringing people up. Lead. I think that one of the things people forget about quite often with the word leadership is it's nothing to do with the job title, and you can lead upwards, downwards, or sideways. And leadership is when people follow you. Leadership is when people are willing to go with you on a journey, and you're leading the way. And that means you've got to have really strong communication influencing skills. And a lot of the conversation we're going to focus on in the workshop is to help you with those two things. So we'll explore what motivates people in detail. We'll explore what the actual drivers are and how to understand those and use those to craft better communications and help motivate people. We'll explore how to use the empathy that you've already learned through product craft to translate that into leadership to help you better understand your stakeholders and then better support and manage and influence. And then finally, we'll put it all together. We'll wrap it all up together. Motivation and empathy to be able to be stronger at storytelling and some basic negotiation tactics.
You keep using this expression, which I find a little bit enigmatic, but I think what you mean by it, which is product craft.
Mm-hmm.
Product craft in the sense of feeling that product decisions and product is more akin to craftsmanship. Is that what you mean when
so when I say that, thanks for pointing that out. And you're right, I do use this phrase quite a lot. When I say product craft, because I spend a lot of time, most of my time, working with leadership or working with people wanting to be leaders, it's important to recognize there is a distinguish between being a product manager and the core craft, that core skill set required to do that job, and the skill set required to be a leader. The two are, whilst in some cases highly related, they are very different. So product craft, such as understanding how to do discovery, thinking about prioritization, thinking about the day-to-day job of a product manager. That's what I mean by product craft. And I use the phrase product craft to distinguish it from leadership, because a large part of most of the role of a product leader is not to do the product manager job anymore. It's to do the product leader job now. They have to let go of some of that product craft in many ways and create room for their product managers to excel at that instead.
Okay, so you use the term as a way to distinguish between what is what most people understand as the job of the product manager to, this upper or whatever it is, people want to put it up or down sides, part of the leadership job, which is effectively different. So you mentioned also that product leaders need to build trust and rapport with stakeholders. What are some effective strategies that you have seen time and time to be effectively demonstrating commitment and fostering trust between this?
Sure. It's a good question. Again, you're all really pointed questions and hope everyone gets value from them. I think trust really, it's worth recognizing what trust is. Trust is the belief that someone is going to do what you expect of them. And there's a couple of key things there. It's what you expect of them. So part of trust, part of fostering trust is setting clear expectation, not allowing the expectation to be set for you, but you setting the expectation and being clear what that is. And then the second part of that is actually delivering on those expectations, delivering on a commitment. And what's interesting there is it's about the perception of delivery. We can miss deadlines, but still have strong trust if people understand why things went wrong, and etc. So the key sort of ingredients to foster trust within the business context is about being transparent, and driving a clear perception of reliable delivery. And I think we do those two things. We're going to cover some of that in the workshop as well, which is because communication plays such a big part in this. But probably the biggest thing here is about how to be authentic, how to be honest, and that setting expectation is so important. Too frequently, I see the expectation set between the product function and the business, the business stakeholders, as being the product roadmap. And that can be a huge mistake. There are things on that are unrealistic. There are things in there that you cannot feel reliable that you're going to be able to reliably deliver. I think there's better things to commit to than basically a project plan. Instead, we commit to the value that we're going to create for the customer. And in my book, The Product Momentum Gap, we talk about it a lot in there. We have something called the value creation plan to really help people do that.
So, I mean, criticizing roadmaps is a little bit akin to criticizing a sacred cow and product management, right? So are you saying that roadmaps as a tool are effectively obsolete and should be, ditched in a way and substituted by, something else, or they should just be used, in a different manner? Well, what's your take on this?
I don't think roadmaps are obsolete. I think there's huge value. They're a phenomenal communication tool. They're really valuable, and it's important that we have a plan. But I think there's a big difference between the commitment from a product function being, and let's be honest, most roadmaps are a Gantt chart, regardless of what best practice might be or might not be. That what you're really seeing there is a commitment by the product person. Typically, the product leader's responsible for it at some level, and the commitment is for all of engineering and all of design and all of product. And despite the fact you don't have control of half of that you don't have control of most of the people and workforce involved to deliver on that commitment. So it's not really a very sensible commitment to pick. Is it needed to drive collaboration in the organization and for planning? Yeah, definitely. Should it be the product commitment? Almost certainly not. So I'm not suggesting it shouldn't exist and it doesn't have a strong place. It most certainly does. But the commitment product need to focus on is we've understood the most important problems, we've validated them, and we're helping engineering and design find the best solutions to solve those problems. In other words, we're going to create value for the customer and therefore value for the business. And when product strategy is articulated that way, the value assumptions instead of project plan, we then start to see a much more interesting conversation. I'll give you an example, compare it to marketing. A marketing executive is unlikely to make the campaign plan for the next 12 months their commitment of success. They're likely, especially in a B2B SaaS business, they're likely to make their commitment to be what their average cost of acquisition will be, what their average cost per lead will be, and how many leads they're going to create for the business for sales to then turn into cash. And how they do that, if they learn halfway in their equivalent to roadmap is a campaign plan and media mix. If they learn halfway through the year that a particular campaign isn't working so well and another one is working better, or a particular marketing channel is underperforming and they could spend more money on another that's performing better, they get celebrated for making those changes to the plan because the plan wasn't the commitment. The outcome was the commitment. In our world, we frequently end up making the plan the commitment and not the outcome. And then when we realize the plan could be optimized, we get beaten up for changing it.
But a lot of it resolves around having the wrong incentives, right? So teams know it's a scam. Everyone knows the root causes, but it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. They have to deliver what I have promised, or they just stick to it for some reason. It's not.
Well, it's not the same in all companies. So, but yeah, it is. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the root cause is often leadership, and the product leader isn't helping the rest of the leadership team understand what they should be accountable for.
So one of the frameworks, if you want to call it this way, that you outline in your book as the product and the product momentum gap is product VCP, value creation plan, which serves as kind of a blueprint for aligning teams around creating genuine value. How does that work? And is this something you're going to also to showcase during the workshop here in Lisbon?
We probably won't go too far into it in the workshop. We will touch on some of it. We'll touch on the principles behind it, because probably won't have time in those sessions to focus on building one. But we will touch on the principles because they're key for communication. So we'll cover the core principles around value, but what drives value, what a valuable user behavior is, what the outcome of a feature is, creating a user behavior, and mapping user behaviors to business goals, and help give people a different way to articulate, which is the VCP, help give people a different way to articulate value and value creation, and give them something else to commit to. So we'll definitely be covering that at some level. And that's the high level. I mean, that's the super high level. That's what the VCP is. It takes the focus away from the feature as a commitment, and focuses on what the behavioral change we're trying to modify, or action we're trying to modify in our user base, and mapping that to the customer value. Trying to extend product strategy beyond mapping customer value to business goal, to mapping customer value to user behavior. And when you do that, and there are other models that do it as well, plenty, not just the model we put together. When you articulate strategy in those terms, you're creating flexibility to find the best solution, the best features to achieve it. You're creating the flexibility to kill features, to change which direction you go to achieve it. But you're not changing the calculus of the strategy. You're not changing the investment thesis of why we're doing this thing, and how we think it's going to benefit the business and the customer. And that's the crucial part. And when we can articulate it that way, and when we collaborate with our stakeholders on defining this, powerful things happen. We see alignment between sales and marketing and product in a really exciting unification, where people are talking about, when we're all aligned about those underlying value assumptions, suddenly we're all paddling in the same direction. And that really transforms an organization.
So you've written your book with Andre Marquet, and what led you with your co-author to write this book? And books are obviously a labor of love, so a lot of work, a lot of effort was put into this, obviously. How this happened? You had a conversation together to say, oh, we should write a book about it. Was this something that was in the works for a long time? Just give us a little bit of the backstory.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, the backstory is, it's really simple, almost embarrassingly. Andrea is an amazing product marketing manager with great experience, and she also loves writing. And she'd been helping me with writing content for Right to Left. So she'd been working with me on content at Right to Left, some various blog posts and course content in training. And as those blogs started to add up, one day we kind of looked at it together, and she said to me, hey, we could almost bind these together and there'd be a book there, why don't we look at that? And what she didn't know was I secretly always wanted to write a book about this topic, to try and reach a wider audience, to try and help more people. And having a co-author to help me felt exciting. I love collaborating and working in a team. So we agreed to have a go and see what happened. And our first step, copying our own product processes, was we thought about how could we test the idea, what would be a lean test. So we wrote a white paper and promoted the white paper to see what response we could get. The white paper got great response, really good feedback, and got shared really well. And that gave us the confidence to go to the next step and write a book, which, was, like you say, at least 12 months of hard work to get it into a shape ready to publish. And it's been amazing, the comments I get, and people letting me know how it's helped them, and the questions, and all the really great feedback. It's been, the other day I was at an event and somebody was stood next to me I didn't know. We were just chatting, and he recommended this book to me, and it turned out it was my book. It was really Yeah. So, it was, it's been really,
Yeah, I bet you probably had one of those very brief reactions to it. Yeah, I'm sure that would have been funny to watch. Okay, so how do you? Let's take this example. Obviously, someone is recommending the book to you. Why were they recommending the book to you? Were they saying, "Oh, I'm reading this book and I'm applying this VCP blueprint to my company, to my projects"? What was the core, the kernel of the
yeah. I mean,
recommendation?
they were talking about the book explains a couple of challenges, it goes into some theory about what the momentum gap is, and then
Hmm.
provides a framework and step by step, basically instructions for a step by step workshop to work with your business to change that and build the VCP. And this particular person had done the first step, and the reaction from the rest of the leadership team had been beyond what he expected. Suddenly, there were just the one exercise looking at something we call the customer value mapper had immediately changed how they were talking, the type of conversation they were having between the CRO, the CMO, and the CPO. And that one thing had ignited and excited him. And that had only been an hours long workshop to then be the catalyst to drive conversation in a different direction.
Yeah, that's so exciting when you are inside a company and you understand that the conversation start to change and the lexicon starts to change as well because people suddenly are adopting and understanding to a new level of understanding of the problem. So going also to one of your creations, the Outcome Habits newsletter, what inspired this initiative? What kind of impact do you hope it will have on product leaders? And is it complementary to the book? Is it something people should be following along with the book? What are the main, differences there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the Outcome Habits newsletter is focused very much on giving people practical advice with some theory so that they can trust it and understand where it comes from, on how to be a better servant leader and their grow their effectiveness and build better teams. Very much it's focused on the leadership side, where the book is very much focused more on bridging product strategy and business strategy. The newsletter is much more focused on more pragmatic 360 leadership challenges that people can use and help them every day. Hence why it's more frequent than a publication of a book, and an ongoing. The journey there has been pretty exciting. We've gone from 0 to a few thousand subscribers very quickly, which, given that we're focused on product leaders, is really exciting because there's a lot less of those than there are product managers, so the numbers are quite good, and the feedback has been great as well. So we're continuing that. We'll be focusing into Q4. We'll be focusing on more to do with AI, more to do with influence, negotiation, and more to do with team organization and team structure.
So being very pragmatical for product leaders listening today who want to start making a difference right away, what's one habit or mindset shift that they can implement immediately?
I love that question. What's one habit? God, it's so tempting to say it depends, because it almost certainly does, like all good consultants. It very much depends on the environment and where they are and what they're doing. There's no single silver bullet. But I think the one thing that I see really frequently is people who are unconfident and a little scared to move forwards. They know what's got to be done quite often. They know where the pains are, and it can be really scary to move forward. So, one of the things in coaching that comes up quite a lot is to work out how you're going to move forwards and pick something small and focus on that to start with, rather than trying to. I mean, you may have heard the phrase, "You can't eat an elephant in one sitting," and quite often, I think we try and change everything about the company and how we do things in one go. So perhaps the most important thing is to have the habit of picking small things regularly and repeating regularly. But probably the habit that would go across almost everybody is to learn to actively listen and listen more.
And listen more, as in more often.
Yeah. We're given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, so we can listen twice as hard than we talk.
Listen deeper.
Actively listen.
Yes.
And there's an article on outcome habits all about actively listening.
All right. So here is a tactical recommendation. So when people register to the newsletter, do they get a digest of past editions, or they start
all the past editions are there. It's a Substack newsletter. So all the wonderful features of Substack are there for you to enjoy.
All right. So, Dave, before we wrap up, are you up for this or that game? It's really fast.
Yeah, sure. Let's go for it. This or that.
This or that. Okay. So, morning meetings or evening calls?
Morning meetings.
Digital tools or traditional methods?
Traditional methods using digital tools. And what I mean by that is I'm dyslexic. So I've always used digital tools from a young age to support me with that challenge. So I'm paperless. I don't have anything written down. It's all on my iPad. But I quite like the traditional methods and traditional thinking.
Working remotely or in the office?
Well, my business is remote only, so I've chosen to work remotely, so I must be working remotely.
Data-driven decisions or intuition-based choices?
Data-driven decisions or intuition-based choices. God, I want to mix them up again and say both in a different way. I want to say data-driven intuition, but data-driven. If the intuition is false, if the data says something counter to the intuition, I'll listen to the data. So it must be data-driven decisions.
Okay. And finally, books or podcasts. And you said that you are very much into audiobooks, but that counts as books for me.
I read a lot, but I probably enjoy podcasts more. I enjoy the podcast more because of I like the authenticity of them, and perhaps they're often a little bit more real and a bit more real as well. So yeah, podcasts.
Podcasts it is. All right. So speaking of podcasts or else really, and this can be product related or not, is there anything that pops your mind when any podcast that you would recommend?
I haven't listened to many product podcasts. I listen to obviously my friend Randy runs the Mind the Product podcast with Lily.
He was with us last year.
So always listen to those guys. Lily and Randy do an amazing job. Probably recommend books. Probably get asked book recommendation more often than podcast recommendation. I can give you a couple of those that are, I think, amazing for product managers and product leaders, but aren't your standard product books. One called The Culture Code. Culture Code is written by Daniel Coyle.
Yes.
I think that's brilliant. It's more about the psychology of highly successful groups and what makes them work and what doesn't. I think that's an amazing book. And then another book would be the book called The Black Box Thinking by Matthew Syed. And that talks a lot about marginal gains, the secrets of high performance. It talks a lot about compares healthcare system like surgeons versus pilots and what their learning velocity is. And I think when you think about learning velocity and assumptions with or without evidence, and how that's used in different environments and businesses and organizations, it's really interesting for product people who should be obsessed with increasing learning velocity.
Yes, I see that you put it so well. Obsessed with learning velocity. Well, for those that want to reach out for advice, what is the best way to reach to you?
Probably LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find on LinkedIn. If not, my website, Right to Left, www.righttoleft.io, and that's pretty easy to find as well. And there's a contact form on there that comes straight to my inbox. But LinkedIn's normally where I am, where I reside. I'm not on X, formerly known as Twitter. I'm not there, and I don't use Facebook or anything like that for business. So LinkedIn or email.
All right. Okay. So I'm just a little bit curious because I guess we're more or less same generation, and you told me that because you're dyslexic, you were using digital since a early age. What was your first computer?
A Spectrum 48K
Yeah,
with
same
the rubber
here.
keys.
With the rubber keys, the ones that you would stuck, right? And
That's the
sometimes they
one.
would actually
The
stuck,
stick under the little metal plate that held them. Yeah,
and
that's
you
the
use
that's the
that
one.
the combos to make the special
That's the one. Yeah,
programming. Yeah,
had
crazy.
3 or 4 shift buttons. Yeah, and I decided very early on I wanted to be a computer programmer.
Mm.
I learned C when I was about 9. Well, that's how I started my career as a computer programmer. But I quickly moved
Because
out of
you went to
management.
computer science degree at
Yeah, I went the
University of
comp sci
Northampton, right?
route. Yeah.
And what happened? You decided, well, this is not for me.
Oh, I love it. I love technology and software, but it turns out the challenge of people is way more exciting and impactful. So, yeah, I coded for a while in a number of business in manufacturing, in a bank, and then in publishing, the pioneering time of the internet. And it was in that role where I moved into management and quickly into what we would describe now as product leadership.
Right.
And stayed there since then.
Here we are. Well, thank you so much for this wonderful conversation, Dave. It's really good to get to know you a little bit better, and also because this is the first time we're having like a proper conversation and in podcast format, and it will be even better to get to know you in person in just over 1 month. I think it's actually 1 month. So today we're recording just 1 month shy from the Productized conference here in Lisbon. So see you very, very soon.
I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it, both the event and visiting the wonderful city of Lisbon.
I hope so.